Okay, so Ben Simmons and Clutch Sports have made it obvious that they are willing to take any fines the Sixers throw at them. He's not coming back, and that's that. To be honest, I don't really feel like discussing the specifics or projecting a Ben Simmons trade because I've done it a million times. We'll just wait and see when it happens. I more so want to talk about what this means for player empowerment because I think this is the next step in that, and if the NBA will eventually try to make adjustments in the CBA in 2024 and all that. Not that I've got a hard take on what you do there. Look, the Sixers have not 100% done right by Ben Simmons, okay? They tried to trade him for James Harden about a year ago, which I don't think that's disrespectful. That's just them doing normal basketball things. Ben is also free to not like that they did that, but that's what happened. But obviously what happened after the Hawks game with Doc and Embiid's comments, not good. Yeah, Embiid also blamed himself. But we've all seen the quote, and I was a little hard on Simmons when I think like 2 weeks ago I was like, well, guys get almost traded all the time and they don't do what Simmons is doing. There's more to it than that. That was not the best take by me. So anyway, player empowerment. I mean, I think it's a nuanced thing. I think it's good that there's more pressure on organizations to make sure they know what they're doing, but also not disrespecting their players. I think it's also possible for players and agencies to go too far in pushing their weight around. I mean, I don't think it's good for the league when it was pretty obvious that Anthony Davis and his agency was only trying to get him to the Lakers and nowhere else. Now, at the same time, Anthony Davis was on the Pelicans for 7 years, played great, was a model citizen, and the return the Pelicans got for him was good. They got an all-star, they got a crap ton of draft picks, they got some guys that people like, whatever. The James Harden situation, kind of similar. He was there for a very long time. Eventually, the whole ship went down. It wasn't just Harden, and they had a choice in what they wanted. They could have went with Ben Simmons, and I think it was Tyrese Maxey as well, or they could have went with the Nets' million draft picks return. That's what they got. At the same time, we remember the initial report which said James Harden wants to go to the Nets. He ended up on the Nets. I can understand how some people would look at that and just be like, oh, players can just direct wherever they want to go nowadays. You look at the Kawhi Leonard situation, and that one is still pretty murky. I mean, one side will say Kawhi was super closed off, and Uncle Dennis just made it to where the Kawhi was going to LA no matter what. And the other side will tell you the Spurs put way too much pressure on Kawhi to play, and there were comments by Tony Parker or whatever, and he was just never comfortable on his injury. I have no idea what side is right. Well, the Tony Parker comments were public, so that obviously happened. So anyway, how does this all tie in back to the Ben Simmons thing? I mean, look, the Sixers are not without fault for this whole thing, and I think that's just something the teams need to be more conscious of than ever. Really, it should have been something that they should have been wary of since the birth of the NBA, but for a long time it was just kind of like you stay with your team and that's just kind of what you do, right? So, of course, there were exceptions. Kareem got traded, Charles Barkley got traded in the 90s, but it just wasn't as normal as it is now. I think it's great to hold teams accountable, but it's also possible that this sort of thing could go too far, and some would say it already has gone too far. As far as potential CBA things after the 2024 season with all this type of stuff, well, for one, I'm nowhere near smart enough to have an actual take, but also, a lot of the time this comes down to a team was not able to build a good enough team in a certain amount of years, or again, they made a guy feel slighted, uncomfortable, pressured, whatever. I don't know how you could fix that sort of thing with contract talks, but I'm sure they'll talk about it in some way. I do think if Zion ends up forcing his way out of the Pelicans before signing an extension, or he signs the extension and then immediately wants out, then it's probably going to go to like DEFCON 1 for the NBA and the front offices and all that.